Guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is William. This is Man Cave Media. Today we're going to be doing another movie review. Today we are going to be reviewing Good Boy. I went to Walmart recently in the mood to buy a new movie. There was a couple releases I were interested in, and looking at all the ones listed, I decided to go with Good Boy. I did not want to pass on this really cool slipcover, and you know what? These puppy dog guys got me. But guys, this movie is bad, very bad, and quite boring, I might say. Guys, I am going to spoil the shit out of this movie. I'm going to save you $18 in an hour and 17 minutes of your time. This is about, I already talked about this in my April haul. This is about a guy who is having a rough time in life. You think that, he's abusing drugs, just kind of how he's acting, especially at the beginning of this film. And then later on, you find out that he's dying. And he moves to his grandfather's old cabin because I think that he lost his house or his place of living or something like that. And his grandfather and his grandfather's dog died in the house. And so he inherited it. And he also has a sister that is really worried about him, calls him all the time. He is not a good human. He's very mean to his sister. And basically that house in the cabin in the woods is haunted. And the haunting is through the eyes of the dog. But this is directed by Ben Leonberg. I believe, and I did some research on this film. This is his first director. This is the first movie he's directed, and this is his dog named Indy, and he said it took him 3 years to make this movie because, it was all through the same dog. All the filming was through the same dog. And he was inspired by other horror movies to where it was like a dog in the movie. And he wanted to do that through the eyes of a dog and stuff like that. But yeah, this movie is not good. Like, there is 2 jump scares in this movie, and they're not even good jump scares. And you would think that, like, the dog is going to warn this guy of the hauntings, but all the dog does is stare. He'll fucking go into a room that he hears, like a knock or a groan, and he'll just go into that room and just stare into a dark corner. That's all the dog does is stare, And the director was inspired by this as well because his dog Indy has like a certain kind of stare. The dog, I don't think the dog barks at all in this film. It's like, the dog didn't do shit. There's also scenes where the owner will also see something, and he'll be like, "Hello." He's like, "Who goes there?" And he's with his dog, and the dog is like staring, like there's something over there, and they just give up. They give up on like, oh, there might be something there. Oh, this house might be haunting, but let's continue with our lives like there's nothing going on. There's also a neighbor in this movie, and the neighbor pops up I think like 2 or 3 times, but you never see him. And he's just like, "Oh, that's a nice dog there. Oh, it's a cute dog." And he's like, "Oh, by the way, be careful of all these fox snares that I have out, because your dog's almost there by one of my fox snares." And the purpose of the neighbor, the purpose of these fox snares is pointless. You see the neighbor like 3 different times, you never see his face, only see his back. And there's only one part in the movie where the dog actually gets caught in a fox snare and like next to this like hollowed out log. And like I think like this dark hand like grabs the dog. The owner's nowhere to be seen, so only like the dog is getting haunted. And the dog is caught in one of those fox snares, but then like, the dog's trying to get away and just miraculously gets out of this fox snare and runs away. Like the whole scene was pointless. There's another scene where, this piece of shit owner puts the dog outside in the rain, tied to a doghouse. And that same haunting kind of like scares the dog. Like you see the hand kind of like grab the back of the dog. The dog's on top of the dog house, and then the dog runs inside the dog house. It's pouring rain outside, and then the dog is just staring. He's just staring out the door, which is kind of haunting because like what's gonna happen next, And then all of a sudden, like this hand pops out of the ground in front of the dog inside the doghouse, and the dog runs away. Again, he's chained to the doghouse, and you slowly see like the hands coming out of the doghouse, pulling the chain, getting the dog closer. You're like, okay, this is a bit haunting, this is a bit scary. But then the dog charges the doghouse, breaking. I can't remember if he breaks the doghouse, but he gets the chain disconnected from the doghouse, and just like runs off into the dark, still with like a collar and a chain around him. And you just have a shot of the dark for like I think like 10, 15 seconds. Like, what's going on here, And then the dog comes back into the shot and like kind of runs into the house to try and protect the owner, But now the dog doesn't have a chain on. So what happened to the chain? I'm like, what I think is like the dog got distracted on set and they tried to coax it back over here. And they just left it in the movie. And so the dog goes back into the house, again, without a chain. And the guy's like, oh, I'm so glad you're here, blah, 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 The guy's not scared at all. He doesn't think the house is haunted and whatnot. And through this whole movie, you never see the owner's face. You never see the owner's face until the very end. And I think there's like some sort of art to that, and I don't understand what it is, nor do I really care. And so part of the movie also, you have like this, the grandfather's dog also died. The neighbor's like, oh, well, they never found the dog, the neighbor's dog or your grandfather's dog or whatever. And that dog kind of haunts the other dog in this movie. Like the dog hears like whimpering in the basement, but again, the dog just stares at like the basement doors. And then there's part of the movie where the dog sees like the ghost of the other dog, but the shot is not like the dog doesn't look. It's like a golden retriever or like a lab, but the dog doesn't look like a ghost. And the dog kind of like goes upstairs, and the other dog kind of like follows, like, because you're watching the movie, because they never found the other dog, and you suspect that the dog is dead, that that this dog is a ghost. But that's pretty much it. Like, you can't really tell other than that. And so like the dog goes to follow the ghost dog, whatever, goes upstairs, goes to her room, and just stares into the corner again. And so this movie was an hour and 17 minutes of boring what's going to happen next. Because usually with a horror film, the haunts slowly get worse and worse. And that never happened. It was like you had one level of haunting throughout the whole movie. So you got like little haunting, middle haunting, and like crazy shit haunting, and we just stayed right there at the middle, But so the movie ends with the dude, the owner gets possessed. He gets like this dark matter, like just covered his whole body in the basement. And that's like kind of like the point that you finally see the actor's face. Again, I think there's some sort of art to it, but I don't really care to know what it is. And you also see like the skeleton of the grandfather's dog. So you kind of think, I guess the point is like, what happened to the grandfather and his dog is supposed to happen to this owner and this new dog. Because when the guy gets like all this black shit around his body and disappears, he tells his dog that he's a good boy and to stay. So I think that's what happened to the old dog. The grandfather said stay, and the fucking dog stayed and died in the basement. And so the ending, you have the sister that shows up, opens the basement door, sees the dog there. She's like, come on with me. And the dog's like looking at the shadowy area to where like his owner disappeared. He's like, should I? Nah. And just leaves. And that's the end of the movie. So, yeah, that's pretty much most of the movie. Is just the dog staring into empty shadows, not really doing anything about it, not like freaking out or is it telling his owner, hey, we need to get the fuck out of here. So no, he was not a good boy. Not a good boy at all. And so, when I heard about this film, I told my wife, like, especially before we watched it, it's kind of like Courage the Cowardly Dog for adults, I guess. And I read a Reddit post about this movie because I went into looking more into this movie. And I found out that the director, who was born in 1985, I believe, so he was in the time of the Courage the Cowardly Dog cartoon. It was a cartoon on Cartoon Network. For those of you who don't know about a dog who protects his family from different haunts and monsters and stuff. But he said he never got the connection with this movie until the movie came out, which, I don't know, there's something there. But yeah, I think this is actually a Shudder original film, and I believe this is my first take on Shudder. I'm pretty sure I've seen other movies from Shudder, but yeah, this definitely left a bad taste in my mouth. Like, and another thing about like going on Reddit and stuff like that, and other people that I've talked to who have seen this, my wife and I are pretty much the only people who hate this movie. Like, I don't know what y'all see. I pretty much told you the plot and what happened. Like, the dog doesn't do shit to protect his owner. He just stares into dark corners, and the owner gives up on shadowy figures that he thought he saw. So, again, I don't know what y'all see. But anyways, that's my review. This is definitely not going to stay in the collection. It's going to be going out of here as fast as possible. But I hope I saved y'all an hour and 15 minutes and $18 of your hard-earned money. But if you feel like that you want to give it a try, give it a try. Come back to this film. Tell me what you think. Have you seen it before? Tell me, what am I doing? What am I seeing wrong? What did I do wrong? But let's talk in the comments. But that's pretty much it for my review, guys. Again, let me know what you think, and I appreciate you clicking my video, and we'll talk to you again soon. Hey guys, Editor William here. I just want to do a quick follow-up because I shit on this movie enough. I want to talk about what I think would have made the movie a lot better. So, number one thing is the haunts and everything is very mediocre. It's a very mediocre haunt, so I would definitely kind of start, with like normal horror movies where like the haunting is like, oh, a little creak and whatnot, and then escalate a lot more. Like I said, this is just like one level throughout the whole entire movie. And I would say it's kind of like in between like a little creak to like, like a more of a medium haunt. It never really reached that peak, Another thing that I would definitely say that would really make the movie a lot better, emphasize the movie, is the use of some CGI. Yeah, I'm definitely more like I'm. There's nothing wrong with CGI. I like CGI. It definitely, it's very useful tool. I do like also the old school practical effects. Like you can do a lot of really cool stuff without CGI. There is a little bit of CGI in this movie, but I'm just saying like you have a dog actor. Yes, the dog is trained, but it's a dog. You can't tell the dog, oh, do this. So I would say you need some CGI of the dog doing things that you really can't get the dog to do, like show some more emotion. Like instead of just staring into like the dark corner, like get some barking, get some snarling, get like, hey, yeah, like start pulling his owner, like we need to get the hell out of here. Like get some more life out of this dog. So I mean that's just really think that I would think that would make the movie a lot better. But give me your thoughts. Like what do you think would make the movie better? Or like I said before, like if you love the movie, tell me what is your favorite part about it. What am I missing? Again, guys, thank you for so much for clicking on my video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.